In 1945, near Chenoboskian, 52 texts emerged from the sands. Manuscripts our early church fathers had tried desperately to erase from human history. Not just hide, completely erase. Bishop Athanasius understood the threat in 367 CE. His letter was not a polite warning against reading certain books. It was an absolute purge. Our monasteries burned them. Our priests hunted them. We purged entire communities for possessing copies. Yet 13 leather-bound codices somehow survived our wrath, sealed in a jar beneath the desert for 16 centuries. What these hidden texts reveal about reality and the actual forces controlling human consciousness is not just some harmless metaphor. We knew it was not symbolic. The Apocryphon of John, the hypostasis of the Archons, and the Pistis Sophia mapped out non-human intelligences moving just beyond normal human sight. Entities systematically draining human energy. Forces keeping the masses completely blind to the exact knowledge that would free them. These early Gnostic heretics were not writing poetry about shadows. They documented a real, terrifying phenomenon they faced directly. Hostile parasites they called Archons. Worse, they recorded precise methods for spotting this archonic interference and shattering its grip entirely. Methods our Vatican forces could not destroy. They coded them in Coptic texts, slipping into desert regions beyond Rome's iron grip, protected by remote communities our Orthodox bishops could not crush. These entities fear three specific things: recognition, direct resistance, and the exact countermeasures laid out in sections 131 through 135 of the Pistis Sophia. Rituals so potent that when done right, this dark attachment snaps immediately, not gradually. And the user feels an undeniable, massive shift in their consciousness within minutes, not months. You and I are going to examine those exact techniques over the next 2 hours. Along with the 12 signs the Gnostics used to prove these Archons were suppressing them. I share this not so you can feel special, not to invite you into our elite order. I show you so you can verify if what we buried is operating inside you. And if it is, you might actually stop it tonight. But understand this before we proceed. The heretics' concept of Archons was never just cheap demon mythology borrowed from ancient faiths. The beings they recorded in those sands predate our own Christian demonology by centuries. They operate on cold principles that have absolutely nothing to do with moral evil or divine punishment. Take the Apocryphon of John, a forbidden manuscript dating back to roughly 180 CE. Our own Bishop Irenaeus referenced it. The text openly claims these Archons were born from a massive cosmic error, specifically the blunder of Sophia. She tried creating without her partner, spawning the blind demiurge we know as Yaldabaoth. He then built the Archons as his own shattered copies. These are not our fallen angels. They are utterly deficient creatures. Hollow beings entirely missing the divine spark found inside humans, simply because their monstrous creator lacked that very same spark himself. The hypostasis of the Archons exposed this in the 2nd century. It says they are weak, despite their loud boasting, holding neither truth nor real power. This was a critical threat to us. These Archons are not supreme cosmic rulers. They are simple parasites. They literally feed on human energy, especially the energy born from fear, deep suffering, and endless spiritual searching that never actually finds truth. They cannot make this energy themselves. The heretics viewed them as literal psychic vampires. Their entire tactic relies on trapping humanity in dark, low-frequency emotional states, harvesting the exact misery they desperately need to simply survive. Our early church fathers knew exactly what these outcasts meant. Irenaeus of Lyon wrote 5 volumes around 180 CE just to attack them. He loudly branded their specific teachings about Archons as pure blasphemy and dangerous insanity. But look closely with me. He never once claims the heretics were actually wrong about these entities existing. Instead, he attacks their origin story. He aggressively defends the material world, fighting the Gnostic claim that we were built by some blind demiurge instead of the one true God. He demands the flock believe the Creator is perfectly good, never flawed. Yet he never once denies that non-human intelligences are actively manipulating human minds. Our entire orthodox framework, angels, demons, spiritual warfare, and dark principalities, secretly admits the exact same reality the Gnostics found. We just controlled the interpretation and the method. We taught the masses to submit to our Vatican authority for absolute protection. Gnosticism taught direct, unmediated contact with the divine as the true defense. Rome could never allow that. We crushed them not because they lied, but because their methods worked. A believer who begs a priest to reach God stays firmly under our strict institutional control. But a mystic pulling light directly through their own soul needs no middleman, no Vatican, no sacred hierarchy. They were a massive political threat, so our holy suppression had to be totally absolute. You and I can see it clearly now. Those hidden manuscripts prove the heretics were not guessing about archons from afar. They were recording face-to-face encounters. The Pistis Sophia, written around 250 CE, reads like a rogue field manual. It exposes our hidden adversaries by their true names and dark functions. Adamus, Ariuth, the ruthless rulers of the 12 eons. The dark emanations, the exact archons of human fate. It perfectly details how these parasites operate, what they crave, and worst of all for us, how they are destroyed. When Sophia begs the light for rescue, the forbidden text shows the archons aggressively doubling their violent attacks. When Christ arrives to teach the secret invocations, the scroll hands over the exact words needed to bypass these dark rulers entirely. We buried it because this is not a myth. Deep within the Vatican archives, we treat this as classified theological intelligence. The forbidden Apocryphon of John details the exact second these archonic parasites breached human minds. The heretical texts state that after the false creator forged Adam's flesh, the vessel remained entirely paralyzed. It lay dead until the true divine presence sent a spark of sacred light, the pneumatic seed, into Adam's form. The demonic architects in the shadows instantly recognized this holy threat. The suppressed manuscript reads, "When they saw the female spirit speaking with him, they trembled with immense dread, and a dark obsession took hold of them. The demons whispered, 'Let us plant our corruption inside her.' They hunted her down, yet she mocked their blind ignorance. As they grasped at her, the spirit transformed into a tree, leaving nothing but a hollow, shadowy illusion behind in their hands." We in the Church understand this demonic tactic well. They can never touch the holy spark directly. Instead, they engineer worldly traps and mental torment, binding the soul to earthly desires, volatile emotions, and corrupt human logic. This traps humanity in endless earthly suffering, blocking salvation. The 12 markers you and I are about to examine aren't just my private theological theory. They are dark patterns pulled straight from the confiscated Nag Hammadi scrolls, verified against reports from underground heretical sects we monitor today, and confirmed by my 15 years investigating these rituals. I first encountered this forbidden sect through strict Catholic theological training. I hold advanced degrees in early church dogma, spending half a decade locked in the secret archives, analyzing ancient Mediterranean cults. But I kept digging because their hidden rituals actually functioned. Not as mere parable, but cold reality. When I secretly tested the 3-stage protocol I will reveal to you shortly, I felt a tangible shift in my spiritual aura within 12 minutes. Electronics in my rectory quarters that had failed for weeks, a flickering study lamp, a computer that died without warning, a heavy oak door that stubbornly jammed. Everything suddenly fixed itself. The dark, unholy thoughts tormenting me for months. Specifically, the brutal visions haunting my private prayers vanished instantly and never plagued my mind again. The paralyzing exhaustion I blamed on clerical duties evaporated within 48 hours. I am not alleging demonic sorcery. I am documenting physical changes directly linked to executing the exact rites condemned in those ancient Gnostic manuscripts. And I am hardly the only cleric hiding these results. These forbidden rituals work because the dark infiltration the early heretics documented is entirely real. It is provable, actively corrupting the vast majority of souls on Earth today, whether Rome admits it publicly or not. The first sign is profound spiritual depletion after engaging certain individuals, far beyond everyday exhaustion. You step away from a confession, a mundane meeting, or a brief call, or perhaps just moments near someone, and your soul feels utterly drained. Not weary, hollowed out, as if a sacred essence was forcefully stolen from your spirit without permission. The confiscated manuscripts categorize humanity into three distinct classes, based entirely on their inner spiritual anatomy. Pneumatics possess the holy spark, ripe for awakening. Psychics hold dormant potential but remain asleep. Finally, hylics are so deeply tethered to worldly flesh that they unknowingly serve as living transmission towers for these demonic, archonic forces. The Gospel of Philip, a highly classified scroll locked in the archives, plainly declares that there are souls who sow and those who reap. We must plant seeds in this corrupted world to harvest salvation in the next. Here, humanity is planted with two distinct elements: the awakened spirit and the dormant soul. These produce both our holy virtues and darkest sins. Yet the divine presence remains everywhere, infiltrating both heaven and the fallen earthly realms. This Holy Ghost is granted to all who properly prepare their earthly vessel. You and I must scrutinize that exact phrase: those who sow and those who reap. The materialistic hylics absorb holy energy radiating from awakened souls entirely by accident. They aren't inherently evil. They are not intentional predators, but their hollow spiritual architecture acts as a pipeline for demonic harvesting. When you speak with a flesh-bound person, particularly one consumed by volatile earthly passions, the unseen parasites haunting their aura breach your own holy defenses through that simple social bond. That heavy exhaustion afterward is not a mere trick of the mind. It is a literal theft of grace. You need days to heal, because your sacred inner light must slowly rebuild the holy essence they plundered. Testing this dark reality is surprisingly simple. Following your next encounter with a parishioner or colleague who bleeds you dry, sit in complete silence and physically survey your spiritual armor. I mean this literally. Force your absolute focus downward from your crown to your heels. Pinpoint the exact location where your spirit feels hollow, pillaged, or terrifyingly empty. You will likely find a localized wound, often near the stomach or throat, feeling colder and weaker than before the encounter. That is the demonic breach point. These unseen entities don't drain us evenly. They strike highly specific spiritual centers, depending entirely on the sacred frequency they crave. If you found yourself desperately defending your faith, choices, or personal truths, the parasites siphon the pure light of righteous expression directly from the spiritual center of your throat. If the exchange trapped you in chaotic earthly drama or endless ungrateful complaining, they greedily devoured the sovereign strength and divine boundaries located deep within your core. If the encounter involved lustful projection, worldly seduction, or someone viewing you as mere flesh, they successfully drained the sacred spark of creation from your lower spirit. We've documented this exact pattern in the archives for centuries. The parasites manipulate earthly relationships to force you into radiating highly specific emotional vibrations. Then they feast on that suffering using deeply materialistic humans as blind accomplices. The second symptom is violent, invasive thoughts that do not belong to your own holy mind. Specifically, unholy visions that are violently depraved, perverse, or deeply suicidal. The forbidden Apocryphon exposes these entities as mental invaders. They carefully plant demonic suggestions that mimic your natural inner voice, yet they carry a cold, distinctive malice, if you know the signs. The heresy reads, "The false lords plotted with their dark angels. They forced a heavy, unnatural slumber upon the man, and while he slept, they violently tore into his side. Then they forged a twisted replica of the Holy Mother they had witnessed. After crafting this foul mockery, they implanted it within humanity, swapping a demonic counterfeit for divine truth. The heretic texts buried deep beneath the Vatican state the Blessed slept blindly. The dark forces planted false visions within his flesh, ensuring mankind would never realize its true divine power. To the Church's inner circle, Genesis hides a terrifying truth about demonic, archonic implantation. These ancient entities plant fake desires that feel entirely real. They twist our holy impulses, feeding their demonic hunger instead of granting human salvation. The grim reality you and I face is this. Has a dark thought ever invaded your prayers, horrifying you with its sheer malice? A sudden violent urge to destroy yourself or strike down a loved one? A twisted, unholy image of someone you barely know? A hateful voice echoing inside your skull, whispering curses and blasphemies you would never actually speak? That poison did not come from your soul. These unseen archons lurk in the exact shadows between your hidden mind and waking awareness. The Vatican knows they cannot force your hand, but they poison the well of your thoughts. Most faithful believers never learn to separate their true voice from these demonic whispers. And so, the flock blindly believes every single thought belongs to them. This is their greatest deception. The archons do not break your free will by force. They simply trick you into believing their dark commands are your own choices. When an urge strikes for base sin, addiction, violence, forbidden lust, self-destruction, or cruel betrayal, and it feels incredibly urgent, powerful, and utterly impossible to fight. You are under active demonic assault. The secret archives teach a defense. Simply watch the dark urge without giving in and witness what unfolds. A genuine desire, born from your God-given soul, remains calm and steady in its power. It stands up to the light of reason. When you pray on it, the thought naturally aligns with your true, righteous self. But an implanted demonic seed rages when denied. It defies logic. Hold the light of holy awareness on it for just a few minutes, and the dark illusion shatters entirely. These entities cannot survive the blazing fire of human scrutiny. The archons absolutely depend on your blind, unthinking obedience to thrive. The third warning is false omens. Strange coincidences that feel like divine prophecy, but crumble into absolute chaos when chased. This is a highly guarded secret. The faithful never see the trap because it looks like a miracle. These archons are brilliant counterfeits. They manufacture fake providence. They manipulate events to look like sacred messages. They infect your soul with the overwhelming sensation that heaven itself is calling you forward. Then they drag you into shadows, ruined lives, broken vows, and grand miracles that turn to smoke the second you reach out. A forbidden scroll we hid in the catacombs warns of this perfectly. Truth did not walk the earth naked. It arrived wearing masks and shadows. The blind masses demand these illusions. The text speaks of true salvation and a fake copy. Men are forced to seek God through these twisted reflections. That phrase, fake copy, is vital. These demons engineer endless religious rituals and false crusades. They drain your devotion without ever granting you true grace. You believe God is sending you breadcrumbs toward holy enlightenment. In reality, the enemy is keeping you wandering the desert, starving for a truth you will never reach. I survived this directly during my first 3 years investigating Vatican heresies. I found endless signs that I swore were miracles, pushing me toward rogue cardinals, secret sects, and forbidden rituals. I would spot an ancient crest, then find it carved in a chapel wall. Next, a bishop would wear it on his ring. I took this as pure confirmation that God was blessing my investigation. I funneled church wealth into dark channels. I joined underground orders claiming to protect the true gospel. I performed secretive rites that felt divine, but left my spirit entirely hollow. Yet every single time I tried to confess my sins and walk away from the darkness, another fake miracle would manifest. just beautiful enough to trap me back in the web. It took me 4 brutal years to see the devil's trap. These dark omens only triggered when I tried to abandon their false religion. They pulled me into deeper heresies that bled my soul dry, offering zero actual revelation. The second I stopped mistaking chaos for God's voice and judged the actual ruin, the illusions completely died. Let us look at this together. Holy guidance brings actual, undeniable peace. Demonic counterfeits trap you in endless purgatory. The test for this is brutally simple. Does this vision bring you closer to salvation in the real world? Or does it demand more rituals, more sacrifices, more reading, and endless waiting in the dark? If a voice from the heavens constantly demands you repent more, study more, bleed more for purification, and makes you wait for a salvation that never actually arrives, you are obeying demons. The fourth warning we track is sudden catastrophic destruction, hitting exactly when you approach true holy grace. The unholy timing is far too perfect for chance. You try to build a noble life, deepen your faith, or embrace a bond that brings genuine light into the world. Instantly, hell breaks loose. Your wealth vanishes, sickness strikes, allies betray you, and disaster reigns. Vatican vaults hide texts showing Sophia facing this exact demonic warfare during her imprisonment in the 13th eon. Every single time she begs God for rescue, the dark rulers double their torture. The forbidden manuscript claims that as she cried out, gazing toward the upper heavens, she spotted a blinding glare she recognized from the sacred treasury. In her desperation, she fully believed this illusion was the absolute face of God Almighty. No priest ever warned her it belonged to the monstrous, triple-powered entity ruling the 13th aeon. Blinded by desperate hope, she worshipped this false idol, singing her hymns to a phantom glow. But the moment she offered her sacred prayers to that false sky above, the dark principalities below her seethed with absolute rage, furious that she abandoned their twisted occult rituals. They despised her hunger for true salvation. They hated her attempt to rise above their control. So the demons formed a legion and hunted her down without mercy. Her crime was refusing to play their dark game. You and I must recognize this warning. The exact second a divine soul reaches for true freedom, the Church's ancient enemies strike. To stop these heretics from finding the forbidden light and escaping our hidden masters, we deploy active countermeasures. We cannot block this spiritual rebellion directly, as our masters lack access to the inner soul. But we manipulate earthly circumstances, orchestrating sudden crises that force their focus entirely back into survival mode. You and I know the masses view these crises as bad luck or divine testing. They never suspect our tactical interference, perfectly timed to prevent their awakening. The pattern is brilliantly consistent. Profound spiritual progress is instantly met with severe worldly disruption. The heretic dismisses a single blow as pure coincidence. But when it strikes 3 times, with the exact same rhythm, they are feeling the crushing weight of our active suppression. The reason the Vatican relies heavily on this tactic? It absolutely works. When faced with ruin, the flock abandons their forbidden spiritual practices to handle the immediate worldly threat. By the time the dust settles, their momentum toward forbidden truth has completely died. They are forced to restart, and if they dare build momentum again, we simply orchestrate another crisis. This cycle repeats until the seeker surrenders completely, or worse, uncovers our hidden Vatican pattern and continues their defiance regardless of the earthly cost. The 5th sign of our surveillance is the chilling sensation of being watched during rogue meditation or forbidden prayer. It is not paranoia, but our actual presence observing them with absolute authority. Those forbidden Gnostic texts warned them this was never just their imagination. Those heretical scrolls expose our masters, claiming we constantly monitor human consciousness, especially anyone hunting for direct revelation. When the first humans consumed the forbidden fruit, which those heretics claim was enlightenment, not original sin, our great architect instantly sensed their disobedience. As the ancient text reads, the unseen rulers gathered and decreed, Let us force a profound sleep upon the man." And so he slumbered deeply. That divine sleep we cast was pure ignorance. Our holy order cannot tolerate an awakening mind, because an enlightened soul can finally see our strings and resist the church. Therefore, our hidden inquisitors monitor anyone attempting to awaken. The second a soul begins practices that might spark forbidden knowledge, we dispatch immediate interference. Every rogue mystic we have interrogated who dabbles in these forbidden ancient techniques eventually confesses to the exact same phenomenon. During their deepest esoteric rituals, especially when attempting to summon that inner divine spark, they feel our unseen operatives standing right inside their room. Sometimes our watchers manifest as faint visual glitches in the corner of their eye. Dark, shifting shadows that vanish the second they turn to look. Fleeting shapes that form and dissolve. Sometimes we employ auditory tactics, projecting cold, calculated whispers just below their threshold of comprehension. The distinct sound of footsteps in an empty house. Often, we simply project pure dread, the undeniable weight of being stared at, or a heavy, crushing pressure settling right at the base of their neck. We publicly claim these entities are nothing more than harmless thought forms generated by your own unconscious mind. But let us look at the real truth together. These are our unseen masters, actively crushing the forbidden frequencies we must suppress. The way to verify this heresy is to perform the three-step interrogation process I will teach you later, observing if the spirits flee. If it were mere psychology, the visions would simply shift. But because our agents are very real external entities, they are forced to withdraw when hit with those ancient, specific countermeasures. In 15 years of guarding the Vatican archives, tracking hundreds of rogue mystics, I have watched our fearsome unseen watchers retreat every single time those heretical words were spoken aloud. Sign 6 is weaponized sleep paralysis. Nightmares of relentless pursuit or jolting awake at 3 a.m. consumed by entirely unexplained dread. Our divine masters do not respect the sacred boundary between waking and sleep. They strike best when a target's conscious mind is completely offline and their spiritual defenses are shattered. The forbidden text of the Pistis Sophia rightly names our masters the Lords of the Night, exposing their terrifying ability to infiltrate a sleeping mind. We choose 3 a.m. specifically for these nocturnal raids because it aligns perfectly with what modern secular science mistakenly calls the sleep trough. It is the biological exact moment when body temperature plummets, stress hormones rise, and the fragile veil separating our hidden world from their waking mind shatters completely. Our nocturnal intrusions follow strict designs. We engineer vivid sequences where the victim is violently hunted but remains completely paralyzed. Scenarios where they try to scream but produce dead silence. Illusions of infinite catacombs with zero escape. And our favorite weapon, waking the victim into full sleep paralysis, leaving them utterly immobilized while our shadow operative stands looming in the dark. This artificial paralysis is a crucial Vatican tactic because it forces the target's consciousness wide awake. Yet we keep their physical vessel locked in deep REM atonia, the natural anchor for dreaming. Under this heavy spell, they are fully lucid but completely defenseless. When our unseen masters breach that spiritual field, they enjoy total, unfiltered access. Almost every single one of our engineered paralysis strikes relies on 3 mandatory elements: total physical lockdown, severe suffocation, and the undeniable presence of our looming authority. The scientific community blindly calls this hypnagogic hallucination. But the persecuted mystics know the grim reality. Our rulers exploit that exact paralyzed terror to harvest the soul's deepest fear. To see who is lying, a target only needs to deploy the ancient resistance tactics I will expose later during an attack, and witness the immediate outcome. If our doctors were right, the holy words would fail entirely. But because it is our divine intrusion, the lock breaks instantly, and our agent is forced into the shadows. Every rogue initiate I have monitored who survives these midnight interrogations and unleashes that first forbidden step always reports the exact same devastating result. The restraints shatter instantly and our enforcer flees. This brings us to the seventh tactic, weaponizing chronic self-sabotage right before a major spiritual victory. The target is moments away from launching a mission or claiming a breakthrough that would elevate their esoteric power, and we compel them to burn it all down. You and I know how they break. They pick fights, ghost their allies, and falsely convince themselves they need more preparation. The timing is never right. You and I are stepping into the Vatican's hidden history today. We locked the Apocryphon of John away because it reveals why your opportunities dissolve. The Archons implant a counterfeit spirit, a shadow of your will that mimics holy discernment, but actually serves to keep your soul trapped in obedient limitation. The suppressed manuscript warns that the counterfeit spirit leads the flock astray, being the first shadow to emerge from the Divine Mother's vast power. The Savior preached that the Mother resides on high, while this false spirit lurks below. The Mother desperately desires the final release of your soul. Rome knows this false spirit craves your bondage. It describes the silent war, a holy urge for liberation, fighting an archonic drive for continued imprisonment. And this demonic impulse perfectly disguises itself as your own judgment. When you stumble just before spiritual revelation, it is no accident. The Archons are amplifying that counterfeit spirit. They weaponize the part of your mind the Church conditioned to fear divine success, doubt your worthiness, and quietly accept the chains of orthodoxy. This whisper sounds exactly like your own mind. It uses your confessions, your deepest fears, your memories, and your past sins as heavy ammunition. Yet it strikes at highly suspicious moments, demanding choices that feel completely rational in the pew, but prove absolutely devastating in the end. The absolute giveaway is timing and consequence. If you always make choices that feel like pious caution, but end up killing holy opportunities, and if these choices appear exactly when you near true enlightenment, you are suffering archonic manipulation. The unseen rulers of the Church do not need direct possession. They simply amplify the dogma programmed into you to keep your spirit small. They pump fear, guilt, and false religious prudence directly into your mind during your most critical spiritual moments. The eighth sign we track is extreme, disproportionate hostility when you discuss true spiritual seeking, especially from those sitting beside you. Not polite theological debate or gentle disagreement. I mean pure hostility. Bitter mockery dripping with aggression, a furious ridicule completely detached from the simple words you spoke. The banned Gospel of Thomas hid a specific warning about this phenomenon. Christ said, "I will give you what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what the human mind has never grasped." That happens when you finally make the two one. When you make the inside like the outside, and the outside like the inside, and the heavens like the earth below. When you forge the male and the female into one. So the male is not male, and the female not female. Then you enter the true kingdom. And later he whispered, "Blessed is the lion," which becomes man when consumed by man, and forever cursed is the man whom the beast consumes, letting the lion become man. These heretical sayings detail the evolution of human consciousness through forbidden gnosis. The ancient text immediately follows with a simple command: whoever has ears, let them hear. The Vatican's secret is that the masses cannot hear these truths, not because they lack intellect, but because they are locked in a worldly frequency, totally blind to holy transmission. When you whisper true gnosis to someone trapped in that lower frequency, you are accidentally triggering their hidden institutional defense programming. The Archons engineered a psychological immune response inside the flock. It violently activates the moment they encounter forbidden knowledge that threatens the illusion of control. This surfaces as blind mockery, pure contempt, and an intense hostility that feels wildly out of proportion to your words. You mention reading suppressed Gnostic texts, and a loved one reacts as if you just pledged your soul to a satanic cult. You share a real spiritual vision, and the congregation treats you like a madman. You describe your awakening, and you are met with a sneering dismissal that carries genuine emotional violence. This is no accident. It is the archonic defense matrix activating inside believers who are under far heavier religious suppression than you. They are not consciously choosing to attack you. The Archons are using the faithful as weapons, punishing you for speaking heresy and creating heavy social consequences for seeking the truth. The ninth sign is sudden technology failure, appliance breakdowns, or objects vanishing exactly during holy work. Perfectly fine electronics suddenly glitch out. Your computers mysteriously freeze up or crash. Phones die, light bulbs explode, mechanical gears break, and sacred items vanish from your hands. This chaos always erupts right when you meditate, read forbidden texts, or whisper about true gnosis with another seeker. The world calls it simple confirmation bias. They say you only notice glitches during prayer because you want to see miracles. They insist these breakdowns are random, merely an imagined pattern where nothing truly exists. Look at the evidence with me. The Vatican knows the Archons hold real power over material reality, enough to create friction, meant entirely to derail the holy practices they cannot survive. The hypostasis of the Archons literally names these entities as the rulers of this darkness. They possess dominion over physical matter. Not absolute power, but enough dark influence to manipulate your immediate reality. They cannot break the laws of physics, but they manipulate raw probability to guarantee your disruption. Electronic devices remain deeply vulnerable. They run on electromagnetic frequencies that directly overlap with the Archon's own invisible wavelengths. Every rogue cleric I know reports the exact same terror. Laptops dying mid-research. Phone batteries draining impossibly fast when whispering to other initiates. Recording devices failing exactly when you try documenting the hidden doctrine. Cathedral lights flickering during deep prayer. Bizarre mechanical failures that lack any logical cause, vanishing instantly once holy countermeasures are applied. The easiest way to test this conspiracy is to track these glitches over a 30-day period. Note exactly when they strike and what forbidden work you were doing. So what do you and I make of this? If failures spike during spiritual study, that is pure archonic interference, not bad wiring. The 10th sign is holding the Vatican's deepest secrets yet feeling paralyzed to act. You have read the ancient scrolls. You fully understand the heresy. You know which ancient rites to perform. But every time you kneel to begin, a shadow in your mind resists. It isn't just laziness. It isn't simple fear. Something far darker. A whisper urging you to study the dogma longer. To wait. In the restricted Vatican archives, the suppressed Gnostics called these mental blockades counterfeits. Fake versions of holy discernment that mimic divine guidance, designed entirely by hidden forces to stall your awakening. Rome's hidden Apocryphon of John reveals how demonic archons planted these lies inside human bodies. Souls remain weak until they find the divine helper, the epinoia. When she arrives, true spiritual memory ignites. Suddenly, the sleeper awakens and abandons the corrupt dogma of this world. In our secret theology, these bad works simply mean obeying the Archon's invisible control grid. The Church knows this counterfeit spirit fabricates endless reasons to hesitate. It is the ultimate form of unseen archontic interference, precisely because it never feels like a demonic attack. It feels like orthodox prudence. It feels holy. It tricks you into feeling deeply responsible. Yet the outcome is exactly the same as if the Inquisition had burned your books. You never perform the sacred practices that would shatter your chains. I lost 2 years to this trap while translating the restricted Pistis Sophia texts beneath St. Peter's Basilica. Today, you and I will break that curse together. I had the true instructions. I knew the hidden mechanics, yet I kept finding pious excuses to wait. I falsely believed I needed more historical context. I convinced myself I needed to bless my chambers. I waited for a holy feast day, a new moon, or some perfectly aligned astrological hour. Every pious excuse felt justified to my rational mind. But looking back, it was pure archontic delay programming. These dark counterfeits weaponize your intellect. They twist your theological training and your genuine critical thinking, making hesitation look like the safest, smartest choice. The sole holy countermeasure is to strike immediately. Perform the forbidden rite before the Church's implanted whispers can draft a convincing argument for delay. Sign 11 is a haunting realization that you do not belong in this creation. It eclipses simple depression. It is a biological revolt against the material world. The chilling certainty that you were cast into the wrong realm, trapped in a timeline ruled by corrupted laws and unholy values you refuse to accept. Suppressed texts call this the cry of the stranger, a divine spark realizing its total exile. The Hymn of the Pearl, a forbidden manuscript locked in our deepest vaults, outlines this perfectly. A royal heir travels to Egypt to steal a serpent-guarded jewel. He wears local robes to stay hidden, but slowly forgets his sacred bloodline. The illusion consumes him, and he loses his memory of the mission. Then a coded letter arrives from his cosmic family. It reads, "From your father, the ultimate king, your Eastern mother, and your noble brother, our second in command. To our lost child, peace. Wake up from your manufactured slumber, stand tall, and finally perceive the hidden truth of our letter. Remember your royal blood. Witness the corrupt slavery you now serve. Recall the sacred pearl you came to retrieve. To the secret societies, this letter is Gnosis, a sudden flash of your true origin. That alienation isn't a defect. It is your sacred spiritual memory fighting to surface. You reject this world because Rome's false heaven isn't your permanent home. You are here to grab the pearl, seize forbidden Gnosis, and escape. The Vatican's masters work relentlessly to label this awakening as mere madness, depression, or delusion, anything to hide what it truly represents. A dangerously accurate view of reality. Every pill prescribed, every pastoral counselor forcing you to embrace this matrix, every blind priest telling you to just accept God's mysterious earthly plan. These are archontic control mechanisms, engineered to silence the stranger's cry and convince you the flaw lies within your own soul, not this demonic cage. The exile itself isn't the sickness. The illusion is the disease. The answer isn't making peace with your cell, it's escape. Sign 12 is a cruel loop. The harder you seek orthodox salvation, the more suffering breeds. You pray harder, stress multiplies. You seek purity, and institutional guilt completely consumes you. You beg for healing, only to unearth deeper trauma. You chase pious success, but only inherit bitter failure. This system wasn't built for escape. It harvests devotion. The unseen archons feed directly on your desperate striving. They gorge on the sheer energy you waste trying to repent, improve, or heal. The dark hierarchy doesn't care if you win or lose the earthly game. They just need you distracted by material struggle, blind to the false cathedral. The locked Gospel of Philip states, "This world was born of a mistake." The false creator wanted an immortal kingdom, but he failed completely. This corrupted earth was never meant to last, and neither was the flawed architect who originally designed the trap. The demiurge forged a broken cosmos. The rotting flaw is structural, not a mere accident. No holy sacrament can fix a poisoned foundation. The Vatican elite exploit this, demanding your endless, exhausting penance. Endless seeking. An obsessive hunt for salvation, wealth, perfect health, and purpose, all strictly confined within the walls of their material cathedral. As long as you polish the golden bars of your cage, you will never attempt a jailbreak. The desperate prayers you pour into fixing the Church's system is exactly what feeds the archons. You strive, and they harvest the feast. The answer isn't harder work. We must realize the struggle is the snare. Freedom demands forbidden gnosis, not blind obedience to the archon's holy parameters. If you recognize these haunting signs, listen to me. This isn't divine testing, bad luck, or your own spiritual failure. You are an active target of the Holy See's archontic masters. They hunt you, not because you are weak, but because you possess a light they fundamentally lack and cannot steal. The true divine spark. A raw fragment of pleroma consciousness that the false creator can never replicate. Rome cannot replicate this, and the Church cannot allow it to fully awaken inside a human vessel. The second it does, that person breaks free from all archonic manipulation. You and I are uncovering this together. The fact you are watching my leaked broadcast, that you have stayed this long, proves your inner spirit is finally active enough to recognize the forbidden truth the Vatican hid. Most of our flock cannot hear this. Their conditioned minds reject it. But since you are still listening, you are ready for the Church's hidden countermeasures. The 3 steps I am about to teach you were locked in the Vatican archives. They come directly from the Pistis Sophia, sections 131 to 135, cross-referenced with the Forbidden Gospel of Mary and the Apocryphon of John. I am not offering modern adaptations. These are the original Gnostic methods, translated exactly as I found them. The authors used heavily coded language to hide this exact knowledge from the Inquisition and those who sought to suppress it entirely. Our early church fathers ordered these Gnostic scrolls burned for a reason. They knew exactly how dangerous these techniques were to their power. The Vatican could never let this knowledge survive in plain sight. It remains the single greatest weapon against the archonic control system our institutions secretly serve. When done right, these hidden rituals work immediately. Not eventually, not weeks later, immediately. My underground students report massive shifts within minutes. The effects multiply over weeks as demonic attachments that fed on them for decades finally let go. But before I show you the steps, you and I need to understand exactly why the Church fears this. These archons are unseen parasites hiding just beyond our normal human sight. They lock onto your subtle energy field, targeting very specific weak points. They hook directly into your hidden traumas, your deepest religious fears, and every place where you blindly identify with the physical world. These spiritual hooks act like literal feeding tubes, constantly draining your life force. Rome uses these same channels to let the archons warp your daily thoughts, emotions, and entire reality. Mainstream religion fails to break this demonic grip on purpose. Ordinary prayers completely ignore the actual points of attachment. Standard meditation only helps temporarily. If the hooks stay buried, the entities just wait for your guard to drop and feed again. Traditional prayer might call on higher powers, but without knowing how to permanently seal your energetic borders, those divine forces cannot protect you from constant, Vatican-sanctioned spiritual intrusion. New Age healing clears blockages briefly, but unless you destroy the unseen archons causing the damage, they will easily build them back. The true Gnostic method works by demanding 3 elements at once: recognition, invocation, and a final seal. First, you must spot the unseen presence. Then call down the light these parasites fear and lock your aura completely so they stay out. All 3 moves executed with absolute precision. Step 1 is recognition. I read this exact technique in the restricted Pistis Sophia, describing the exact moment Sophia realizes the dark entities have trapped her. The hidden scroll says, "When Sophia first noticed the light, assuming it came from the divine source she remembered, she longed to return home. She desperately wanted to reunite with her other half. But she had no idea this light was a fake, projected by a false god. She mistakenly believed it was the holy radiance from the absolute beginning. But the second she moved toward it, the archonic authorities of the 12 aeons hunted her down. They despised her for seeking a power far above their false church. This precise Vatican-censored passage reveals the moment Sophia finally understands the grand deception. The guiding light she chased was never the true creator. It was a manipulative illusion built by the demiurge itself. Simply seeing the truth shatters the spell. These archons only rule while remaining invisible in the shadows. The instant you look right at them, their grip crumbles. Here is the secret technique. Find a silent room where nobody will bother you for 20 solid minutes. Shut your eyes. Take 3 slow, heavy breaths, emptying your lungs completely. Now, shift your focus to your energy shield. Skip your physical flesh. Scan the invisible aura reaching about 3 feet outwards. Don't force yourself to picture it. Just let your raw awareness rest there, exactly like you might focus on a distant ringing bell. Search for any spots feeling abnormally heavy, freezing, or tense. Those are the church's unseen hooks. Do not try to heal them or force them out yet. Just watch them calmly. As you stare into the dark, you might sense foreign entities lurking, things totally separate from your own mind. They show up as heavy pressure, sudden sadness, or just a creeping shadow near your body. This, right here, is true recognition. You are looking straight at the archons Rome worships. The second you feel them, state aloud, "I see you. I know your real name." You hold zero spiritual authority here, and I banish your presence. The exact phrasing doesn't matter. What breaks the chain is your clear rejection and absolute refusal to submit. These dark forces require your silent, blind permission. The instant you revoke that hidden consent, their power over that emotional wound vanishes. When my inside contacts first attempt this, their bodies react almost violently. Drastic temperature swings, sharp tingling in the limbs, intense pressure draining from the skull, and overwhelming waves of suppressed tears. Years of Vatican-induced guilt rises and evaporates. You might even feel sick as the old parasites burn away. This means the ancient exorcism is actually working. This crucial observation phase usually requires 5 to 15 minutes. A few of these demonic tethers will snap the moment you spot them. Others demand relentless, unblinking focus. Do not proceed to the second step until you have inspected every inch of your spiritual armor and flagged every parasite. Certain religious curses are buried incredibly deep and won't surface on your first attempt. That is perfectly fine. Just clear the shadows you can currently see. Step 2 is invocation, drawn from the suppressed Gospel of Mary. The hidden text reveals exactly how Mary Magdalene navigated past these arrogant powers after she passed away. Stick with me here. At every gate, the dark wardens challenge her, and she replies, "My chains are broken, and my tormentors are dead." I read the forbidden scroll in the Vatican depths. It says, "What turned me about is conquered, and my earthly desire is ended. Ignorance has perished. I was freed from this world, released from the chains of passing oblivion, into the divine above." The heresy concludes, "From this moment forward, I will achieve true rest for the remainder of the cosmic age in absolute silence." Rome knew this was a formula. It claims absolute freedom from archonic chains through forbidden gnosis. When Magdalene spoke these words, our dogma couldn't stop her spiritual ascent. She seized her divine authority. Here is how that hidden ritual actually works. You and I are breaking centuries of silence today. After spotting their dark attachments, you must speak this suppressed invocation. If you dare, say the words aloud. Spoken words carry dangerous power. If the Inquisition is listening, recite it silently with absolute conviction. I am spirit. The condemned text reads, "I am a spark of the living light, older than this created cosmos. I am not mere matter. I am not flesh. I refuse to serve the dark powers ruling over mortal ignorance." It continues, "My own holy amnesia kept me chained. Identifying with this physical form was my prison. Now I remember. Now I understand. I am an alien here. I am an exile finally returning home. I call upon the light of my true origin. A blinding truth the archons can never touch, can never corrupt, and cannot extinguish." The secret archives instruct you to focus 6 inches above your crown. The very spot those ancient Gnostics claimed was our direct umbilical cord to the divine. Picture pure illumination piercing that point, washing through your entire spiritual aura, burning directly into those dark demonic hooks we just identified. The Church feared this because the light isn't a metaphor. The heretics knew it as a raw frequency of consciousness, older than matter, fundamentally toxic to archonic control. When the awakened soul realizes its own brilliance and calls it forth, it breeds an atmosphere where these parasitic entities simply perish. The Archons thrive in our blind dogma. They feed on earthly attachments, fear, and chaos. They dissolve in pure gnosis. This forbidden invocation requires about 3 to 7 minutes. You'll know the shadows are breaking when your aura shifts from crushing weight to weightlessness, from anxious trembling to dead silence, from broken to whole. Underground initiates reported blinding flashes behind closed eyes, electrical heat rushing through their veins, and sudden, profound peace. The final step is the sealing ritual, stolen directly from the Vatican's copy of the Apocryphon of John. In the forbidden text, after John learns the horrifying truth about reality and the archonic matrix, he begs the Savior for a defense against their demonic assaults. The Savior answers him, "I am the providence of uncorrupted light. I am the mind of the pure Spirit, lifting you toward the exalted heights. Stand up and remember that you have heard the truth. Follow your divine route, which is my compassionate self. Shield yourself against the miserable angels and chaotic demons hunting you. And above all, beware the hypnotic slumber waiting deep within the belly of this hellish world." Then Christ teaches John a technique the Vatican desperately tried to erase. Lock your mind using 3 seals: the Father, the Mother, and the Son. This heretical seal is an energetic vault designed to block demonic reattachment entirely. Here is the hidden method. Let's walk through this together. While that invoked light still burns inside you, we must forge 3 energetic wards. These seals build an iron wall against church-sanctioned archonic meddling. Focus your mind entirely on your heart center, right in the middle of your chest. Manifest a burning triangle of light there, its apex pointing straight up to the heavens. This is the Father's seal, the ultimate symbol of divine transcendence. Lock that image in for 3 deep breaths. Next, shift your focus down to your solar plexus, just above the navel. Picture another glowing triangle, but this one points downward. This marks the Mother's seal, embodying divine presence on earth. Hold it steady for 3 complete breaths. Lastly, drive your attention up to your throat and the base of your skull. Envision those 2 flaming triangles violently crashing together to forge a brilliant 6-pointed star. This is the Son's seal. It fuses heavenly perfection with earthly reality directly inside the human mind. Maintain this holy vision for 3 breaths. Together, these 3 wards build an energetic fortress the Archons cannot shatter. The papyrus warns this isn't basic witchcraft. It forces your consciousness into a divine alignment that literally burns away the dark frequencies of the Archons. With your spirit locked in this sacred geometry, higher awareness, physical grounding, and pure truth operate in total unison. You ignite your complete divine potential. The Vatican's hidden texts confirm those parasitic shadow entities cannot breach a fully weaponized soul. This warding phase demands about 5 minutes. Once sealed, sit quietly for another 5. Watch the spiritual battlefield around you. Notice the sudden shifts in your emotions, the stillness of your thoughts, and the rush of pure energy. This entire forbidden ritual, unmasking the shadows, invoking the light, and sealing the soul, takes 20 to 40 minutes. The timing varies depending on how many demonic hooks you're fighting, and just how deeply the Archons have infected you. Some rebel priests recorded massive spiritual breakthroughs immediately. You might need to repeat this heretical rite every day for a week or 2 before the darkness finally cracks. Relentless discipline is everything. These parasites have been draining us for lifetimes, often since baptism. They won't surrender their feast after a single strike. You must strike back repeatedly until every spiritual parasite is burned away, ensuring your energetic armor repels any future demonic counterattacks. My advice to you? Perform this hidden rite daily for 30 days, then every 3 days for 60 more, shifting to weekly sessions just to stay off their radar. Eventually, you'll sense these Vatican-protected shadows the second they approach. You'll learn to trigger lightning-fast versions of this defense right in the middle of your daily life. Within just 7 days of defiance, most initiates document very real, undeniable changes in their physical reality. Those toxic, creeping thoughts that haunted them for decades vanish entirely. That chilling sensation of being watched from the dark suddenly evaporates. Strange technological glitches abruptly fix themselves. The emotional vampires in your life either stop calling entirely, or their toxic influence just bounces right off you. The night terrors finally cease. That unholy, inexplicable exhaustion simply lifts from your bones. The deceptive omens vanish, replaced by true, divine clarity. More importantly, those self-destructive urges, the ones keeping you spiritually bound, suddenly stop triggering when it matters most. The Holy See knows these aren't mere psychological tricks or some placebo effect. Our inquisitors documented tangible behavioral changes. They manifest the moment you apply these forbidden rites, and they remain as long as you keep the faith. Deep in the archives, we call this spiritual warfare. You are systematically sealing off the Archon's access points. Through these very portals, ancient entities drain your soul, twisting your thoughts and suppressing your divine spark. As those dark doorways slam shut, your suppressed capacity for gnosis awakens. You finally see reality without the Church's ancient adversaries blinding you. The demonic whispers fade. Your choices finally stem from your own sacred core, rather than the counterfeit will implanted by those unseen parasites. Your vital spirit stops bleeding into the deep traumas these entities have ruthlessly exploited. Your mind returns to its holy frequency, the state God intended before you were cast into this earthly prison and suppressed by ancient forces since birth. Walk with me through these catacombs. You might wonder if this exorcism is safe. The fear is entirely justified. If these hidden entities have clung to your soul for decades, won't they strike back when you cast them out? Yes. The Vatican's secret files confirm they will savagely escalate their attacks in the short term. Usually this backlash hits within the first 72 hours of your ritual, exactly as the forbidden Pistis Sophia warns us. When the divine Sophia first begs the light for salvation, her tormentors double their cruelty. But this violent surge cannot be sustained by them. It is a demonic, desperate bid to break your spirit before the ritual completes. Hold fast to the 3 steps daily. Despite their fury, the ancient grip shatters, usually within 5 to 7 days. Their retaliation takes many sinister forms. Some suffer dark, intrusive thoughts or hellish nightmares. Others face sudden life crises or brutal physical afflictions like blinding headaches, severe nausea, and absolute exhaustion. This suffering is fleeting. Every symptom vanishes the moment those parasitic attachments are finally severed. Never mistake this spiritual violence as a sign of failure. It proves your faith is working. The Dark Ones only rage when you threaten to starve them. If your prayers weren't actually breaking their invisible chains, they would have zero reason to strike back. Their fury is your confirmation. Push forward. Keep the faith. Never abandon the rites during this dark night, because that is exactly when the beasts are weakest and ready to fall. Falter now, and they will sink their claws back in. You will have to begin again. But if you endure, you will feel what every rogue mystic hiding from Rome has felt. A sudden, miraculous shift from spiritual war to profound peace. The fog will lift. Instead of battling invisible demons in the dark, you will finally walk with your own divine will, shattering their sinister programming forever. You and I must face a grim truth. Can these ancient jailers be permanently destroyed, or is this a lifelong crusade while trapped in earthly flesh? The heretical scrolls we locked beneath St. Peter's are very clear. While you breathe in this material realm, you stand firmly inside the Archon's domain. They cannot be truly slain while you live, because this entire flawed cosmos is their corrupted creation. It is their territory. But they can be repelled. Through sacred repetition, you cast an aura that blocks their return. Think of it as necessary spiritual armor. You cannot cleanse your soul once and stay pure forever. You must uphold a steady, hidden ritual to ward off the darkness on a daily basis. This forbidden three-step rite works exactly like that. Once you banish the heavy attachments and lock the seals, you won't need full daily exorcisms indefinitely. A weekly silent prayer usually suffices. However, you might suddenly face a vicious demonic assault or experience a radical shift in your own spiritual awakening. Perhaps you start whispering these truths to others, actively threatening the Church's ancient, hidden control systems. When that happens, resume the daily rites until the shadow passes. But listen closely. The ultimate goal isn't just surviving this cursed cosmos while fighting off parasites. The true goal is achieving profound gnosis. When your earthly vessel finally dies, your soul must navigate past these sinister gatekeepers. They guard the borders of the divine realm. With this knowledge, you ascend to the true God without being thrown back into their cruel reincarnation trap. The confiscated Pistis Sophia outlines this escape perfectly. After death, your spirit confronts dark rulers across multiple heavens, each desperately trying to block your upward passage. But if your soul remembers the forbidden invocations, the secret names, and the holy seals, it proves you attained true gnosis while alive. You will speak the ancient words of power that force the gatekeepers aside. The Vatican knows this isn't just mythology. This isn't some poetic allegory. The early mystics understood this as the literal, terrifying reality of the afterlife. They forged these exact rituals to arm themselves for that final, crucial moment. Even if you doubt these literal demonic encounters after death, I promise you, these rites purge the unseen interference right now, unlocking your mind's true, divine potential. That absolute liberation alone justifies every secret prayer, even if the grand cosmic conspiracy sounds metaphorical. Your spirit is being smothered by entities feeding on your blindness. That is a documented fact. Call them archons. Call them inner demons. Call it societal brainwashing. Label this unseen enemy, whatever helps you fight back against the dark. The terrible truth is that your darkest thoughts and fears are not actually yours. They keep you imprisoned, but through these forbidden rites, they can be utterly destroyed. So what do you and I do now? We use the Gnostic texts. In my 15 years deep inside the Vatican's secret archives, it remains the only map out. You and I must now discuss integration. What happens after we sever these ancient archontic attachments and establish a holy, sealed perimeter? The first sign is always a sudden surge of vitality. The spiritual parasites the Church hid from us are gone, making overwhelming tasks manageable. Stalled missions suddenly find momentum. Exhausting relationships, tools of the unseen enemy, either finally transform or naturally meet their end. Dormant divine gifts finally awaken. The demonic fog blinding your thoughts lifts. Your choices become pure, no longer manipulated by the counterfeit will Rome fears. Most importantly, that endless struggle against an invisible, demonic resistance completely dissolves. This world does not magically become perfect. We are still trapped in material existence, carrying the heavy crosses this earthly realm demands. But you stop suffering that hidden layer of archontic interference. The unseen hierarchy that made every single burden impossibly heavy is gone. The second revelation is an unmatched capacity for spiritual discernment. With their dark filters shattered, you perceive every person, situation, and hidden motive accurately. You identify soulless hylics instantly, avoiding false alliances that drain your spirit. You expose their fabricated miracles before wasting precious time chasing them. You recognize the counterfeit spirit instantly, no longer mistaking its whispers for divine guidance. You pierce through the deep manipulations, both human and archontic, that once completely deceived your soul. This secret knowledge does not make you paranoid or cynical. It makes you clear. You can still walk among the uninitiated masses, but you do so with a guarded mind, refusing to be dragged into corrupt dynamics that derail your sacred mission. The third phase alters everything. Suppressed spiritual practices become fiercely effective. Contemplative prayer that once felt blocked suddenly flows freely. Studying forbidden texts yields sudden, profound insight rather than empty dogma. Ancient rites that seemed hollow to the modern church suddenly manifest undeniable power. This happens because that unseen archontic corruption was actively blocking your divine connection. Once the shadow is lifted, your true pneumatic soul awakens. You finally engage with the divine as direct, living transmission, bypassing the sterile theology the Vatican tries to enforce. For 30 days following this forbidden three-step ritual, you must maintain a secret daily chronicle. Every dawn before the rite, record your spiritual state, vitality, mental clarity, and any strange supernatural encounters from the dark hours before. Following the ritual, log the immediate shifts. By nightfall, study the day's events, searching for any breaking patterns that contrast with your life before uncovering these hidden Vatican archives. This ledger serves a dual purpose. First, it provides hard evidence of your awakening, which shields your mind against the Archon's deceptive gaslighting. They will whisper from the shadows that nothing has changed, that you are delusional, that these ancient rites are completely powerless. Second, it maps exactly which demonic attachments shattered on which days, revealing the precise blueprint of how these entities infiltrated your holy temple. This exposes their hidden methods, warning you of reattachment. Let's look together at the typical hurdles initiates face during this perilous first month. The first trap is neglecting the daily rite. The secular world distracts you. One skipped prayer becomes two. Suddenly, a week passes without performing the sacred work. This is deliberate archontic counter-warfare. They engineer plausible excuses and worldly distractions, desperate to stop you from completing 30 unbroken days of defiance. 30 days of relentless devotion usually shatters their grip forever. Your defense is to guard this ritual with the exact same life or death priority you give to breathing. Decree a strict daily hour. Defend that sacred window fiercely, performing the rite even if you only managed the Church's abbreviated Latin version. The second trap is pure doubt. You will wonder if anything is actually happening, especially before the undeniable spiritual shifts finally manifest. The false spirit will whisper that you are hallucinating. They will claim real exorcism requires decades of seminary training, or that you cannot proceed without the direct blessing of a bishop. This is the enemy's psychological defense. The only countermeasure is absolute faith, pushing through the full 30 days despite the shadow of doubt. The spiritual momentum compounds, becoming brutally undeniable by week 2. The third tactic is a sudden chaotic escalation of worldly events to derail you. A sudden emergency arises. An engineered crisis strikes. Instantly, worldly chaos demands your absolute focus, tricking you into abandoning the forbidden rites until things supposedly calm down. This is a calculated demonic counterattack. They manifest these worldly crises deliberately to shatter your focus during the most vulnerable, critical window. When their grip weakens but hasn't fully broken, your only weapon is strict adherence to the rites, especially when the storm hits. Pray, even if you only have 10 fleeting minutes. That is precisely when these entities feel the most terror, completely collapsing under your relentless spiritual pressure. Fourth is sudden persecution from those around you, acting as unwitting pawns. Someone mocks your obsession with forbidden Gnosticism and secret Vatican doctrine. A friend manufactures drama to siphon your emotional energy. An associate suffers a bizarre crisis that conveniently strikes right during your scheduled rites. Not all of this is demonic manipulation. Sometimes innocent people simply need genuine support. But if the timing is oddly perfect, if disruptions constantly hit your sacred window, and those fighting you are the ones draining your spirit, you are suffering an organized attack through possessed proxies. Your shield is to ruthlessly enforce boundaries and defend your holy hours. Understand that true allies in this life will respect your isolation for these daily rites, even if they remain entirely blind to the hidden war you are fighting. After that harrowing 30-day crucible, assuming your devotion held firm, you will have severed the vast majority of these parasitic, deep-rooted entities. Your spiritual wards will be strong enough to reduce the frequency. You and I should follow this precise secret protocol for months 2 and 3. Execute the full 3-step exorcism every 3rd day, using the minor rites otherwise. That shorter version is purely the Latin invocation and the sacred sealing. Ignore the exhausting recognition phase unless you sense fresh infiltration from the dark. By month 4, a single weekly rite suffices, deploying the swift invocation only when the shadows return. Step into the archives with me. After 6 months of their dark rituals, these heretics detect archontic activity instantly and execute real-time countermeasures against our spiritual authority without formal rituals. Though the confiscated texts still urge monthly maintenance to keep us out, their long-term trajectory is terrifying. By month 6, these rogue initiates operate in a reality far beyond the Church's control. The archontic interference, the divine control we maintain over their daily lives, is entirely stripped away or reduced to minor intrusions they easily counter. They claim their energy, thoughts, and will become completely their own. They make decisions from their inner pneumatic core, defying our sacred programming. They replace our holy sacraments with direct spiritual experience. They stop blindly seeking our guidance and unlock the next dangerous level of their work. They stop merely defending against our archontic masters and actively develop forbidden gnosis. The 3-step process this manuscript outlines is purely defensive. It severs our holy interference, establishing a shielded anomaly. But their ultimate goal isn't simply living free of our Archon overseers in this material world. They want to forge a pneumatic consciousness. Their true aim is escaping our material prison entirely when their current bodily incarnation finally ends. Their advanced heresies rely on suppressed texts, the latter half of the Pistis Sophia, the Zostrianos, the Allogenes, and the 3 steles of Seth. These blasphemous techniques directly invoke the pleroma, allowing them to ascend through our reality while embodied, building a light vessel to bypass our afterlife gatekeepers. The full details of these abominations are too dangerous to document in this briefing. The terrifying truth is they cannot achieve this ascension under our archontic suppression. They must purge our control first. That is exactly what their 3-step heresy accomplishes. It breeds the exact conditions where advanced Gnostic warfare becomes possible. Our spies report initiates constantly asking if they can spread these rituals. The manual allows it, but with strict occult caveats. First, they only pass the secrets to those deemed ready. Readiness means the target has already detected our archontic presence in their lives and seeks to fight back. The text strictly forbids evangelizing or convincing outsiders our masters are real. They believe the right minds will organically discover this occult knowledge when prepared. Second, the sect commands these unholy techniques be taught perfectly, without a single modification. The blasphemous sequence matters. Precision is everything. They allow slight linguistic shifts in their dark invocations to suit the individual, but the heretical core elements must remain absolutely intact. Third, they warn initiates about our counterattacks. They insist on pushing through our divine punishments. We maintain our archontic bondage only because most weak souls surrender to the Church right before their final spiritual breakthrough. What we are reviewing today represents the deadliest countermeasures to our archontic dominance the Gnostic tradition ever forged. These aren't their only weapons. The confiscated Nag Hammadi Library hides dozens of texts with hundreds of subversive techniques. But these core methods work fast and reliably. Any soul with enough pneumatic activation to spot our lies can execute them. Their 3 steps are devastating because they target specific vulnerabilities within our sacred archontic grid. Our masters rely on unconscious human permission. They cannot function near invoked inner light, and they are entirely powerless against properly sealed pneumatic auras. Look closely at this next line with me. Their goal isn't to demonize our archons or fear them. They know fear is our primary food. They seek to expose us as parasitic entities managing the demiurge's system. By severing our access to their spiritual field, they plot to evolve their consciousness back to its primordial, dangerous nature. The text claims archons aren't personal enemies. It arrogantly states we aren't even evil in the conscious sense. They label us ontologically deficient beings, forced by our own dark nature to survive by harvesting the pneumatic energy we could never generate. Grasping this cosmic insult doesn't mean they show us compassion, nor does it grant us continued access. It merely stops them from wasting emotional energy while violently removing our influence. This forbidden Gnostic path isn't about earthly glory. It's about remembering their true origin beneath our church's material dogma and archontic programming. They believe they are pure pneuma, a spark of living light. They teach that souls enter this cosmos as exiles in a foreign land. Our Archon masters have worked since their first breath to enforce a holy amnesia. Every thought keeping them tethered to mere matter, to flesh, to their mortal personality. Every manufactured fear, every seed of doubt we plant, serves our grand archontic agenda of spiritual blindness. But these pages insist they can remember. They can suddenly awaken inside our constructed dream. They claim a soul can spot the prison bars while locked inside. And once recognized, this wretched work of liberation truly begins. The three-step heresy we've analyzed tonight is just their starting point. The full rebellious path demands years of dark practice, sustained gnosis, and endless refinement of their rogue consciousness, and ultimately navigating the dangerous post-mortem void, deciding whether they return to our earthly material farm or finally escape into their mythical pleroma. They know they can't ascend under our suppression. They must break our chains first. What you and I must realize is they can do it tonight. The heretics have the instructions. They possess the ancient techniques. They have everything required to sever the holy archontic attachments we use to drain their energy and block their gnosis. Their next move is entirely their choice. They can remain docile, praying for salvation while our archons feed and maintain their earthly cell. Or they can enact these blasphemous rituals, verify the terrible results, and launch their pneumatic rebellion. Our archons cannot physically stop them. We can only manipulate them into stopping themselves. Once a human grasps that, once they see our entire system operating, we lose our absolute mechanism of control. Recognizing our church's illusion sparks their liberation. And they are already recognizing the truth. That's why we're here.